We're in Phoenix, Arizona, in a middle-class neighborhood. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Not exactly an hour of the day you'd expect there to be criminal activity.
911, what is your emergency?
I was just out in the alley, and I had an elderly neighbor who lives across from me. And he's laying in the backyard.
Is he there by himself?
No, he has a wife, and they're both elderly.
Do you know where she's at right now?
Oh, she might be in the house. I don't know.
Okay. Let me get the officers going out there.
It was just a routine day on patrol. We got the call, subject moaning in the backyard. When I was a kid, I lived 3 blocks from where this occurred. It was a nice, quiet neighborhood. You have an idea of what's reported, but a lot of times you find out that it's totally different.
The Phoenix Police Department arrives in this backyard. An elderly man is bleeding profusely from his head, and his hands are tied with duct tape.
He wasn't asking for help, he was asking for his wife. Where's my wife?
They turn and look at the house,
Your wife's inside?
and the interior door to the home is standing open. Is the suspect still here?
Call the backup.
Sir, stay still. Hold on.
Dispatch. Oh my God. Everybody on the body in here.
This was a horrible crime that we'd stumbled upon.
I am retired Sergeant Darren Birch. In 1998, I was a detective in the Adult Sex Crimes Detail with the Phoenix Police Department. When I was a young kid, I learned that my grandmother had been brutally raped when she was a child. And I realized very quickly, I hate criminals. It was a Monday, I remember it vividly. I get a call from my boss, which was unusual. I can still hear him saying the words. We have a home invasion of an elderly couple, and the woman was brutally raped. Every detective has that one case for whatever reason. This particular case is that one case for me.
What do we got?
We have 2 elderly victims in their 80s.
Birch is briefed by the officers on the scene that John and Hazel Dernovich live in this house. They've lived there for many, many years.
They were childhood sweethearts who'd grown old together. John was a big, spry man, worked in the construction industry so he could fix anything. Hazel was a beautiful woman. She was still running the show at the house, even at 81, in great shape.
Birch learns they've both been removed by ambulance to a hospital, both in very critical condition. Birch looks at this crime scene and finds some things that are very disturbing to him. Birch is well experienced. He's seen about everything. This he'd never seen before.
Yeah, the scene was very violent. We had a lot of blood, a lot of weird items.
He sees an instrument laying on the floor that is covered in blood and has gray hair attached to the blood. This is a solid steel bar. This is the instrument used to bludgeon this victim. He sees a bloody flashlight. There is a can of Crisco vegetable paste open on the floor with a bloody imprint of the flashlight in the Crisco.
It was a horrible scene. This was about as grisly as it gets.
The rest of the house had that typical burglary ransacking look, where drawers were open, things were strewn about. It was hard to tell if anything was really missing.
Are they looking for money, weapons, jewelry, things that commonly can be turned into cash? Birch is still trying to determine what's happened here. Birch also wonders why one victim is inside this home, but her husband, John Dernovich, is in the backyard. Why would he go outside?
Over here, he found him on the ground.
In the backyard, there was this drag mark where we found John. It looked like he was in the area of the circuit breaker and had been dragged from that location on the side of the house. We could see the power box door was open.
And he looks at that box and he notices that the master switch is off. So somebody turned off the power to this home. Why would that happen?
Looking at the yard, we found this beautiful, pristine shoe print. It was beautiful. It was the only thing we had, but it was beautiful.
That's as useful as a fingerprint. It can be extremely unique. And if we find our man wearing a pair of Reeboks, we can match the shoe on his foot to the impression in that mud, which puts him at this crime scene.
All right, Don, you got it from here? Yep. All right.
First thing I did when I arrived to the hospital was talk to the doctors.
The doctor explains that Mr. Dernovich has suffered a subdural hematoma as a result of blunt force trauma. A subdural hematoma is a bruising of the brain.
Basically, the brain is swelling. He was hit about 5 times with a metal bar. John, I'm Detective Birch with the Phoenix Police Department. How you doing, John?
All right.
Do you remember what happened today, John?
Dernovich explains that he and his wife had been watching television when the power went off in the house. He told his wife he would go outside and check the circuit box.
Oh, maybe it had to be there.
You walked out to the meter box?
Yeah.
He saw the box was open and the master switch was off.
And then the next thing he knows, he's on the ground.
And I know he hit me in the back of the head, and then started tying me up with tape.
And he then went unconscious and doesn't remember anything after that until he was awakened in a hospital by a doctor.
So I take it you want to prosecute?
Hell yeah.
Thank you, John.
Birch has learned something. The power box was the lure. You have a perpetrator who has a plan. He needs to draw somebody out of that house, and the way to do it is to turn off the power.
I kind of looked at this as a homicide in the sense that he intended to kill these people, especially the way he brutally attacked John and, in my estimation, left him for dead.
Whoever is responsible had conducted surveillance on this house. He knew a lot, and he took advantage of carrying out a plan that worked quite well.
Doc, what can you tell me about Hazel?
The doctor treating Hazel Dernovich says that she has a number of contusions and abrasions, in excess of 100, and she had been extensively tortured by assault much longer than her husband. And in the doctor's opinion, she was raped with an object. This draws Birch's memory back to that crime scene and explains why the bloody flashlight was bloody.
People look at a crime like this and they wonder, how could you attack an 81-year-old woman? It is the epitome of the coward. Guys like this always go for the most vulnerable targets.
This was a nice lady who had been brutalized beyond imagination. I was eager to talk to Hazel, see how she was doing, see if I could get some type of suspect information. Hazel, what I'd like to do is see if we can refresh your memory about what occurred, if you feel up to it.
I haven't felt very good all week.
It was difficult at first talking to her because it reminded me of my grandmother. This was a very petite, intelligent, feisty woman. I had to really work through that in terms of not crying or getting upset seeing this woman because she looked like she had been beaten half to death.
While Birch is speaking to her, he looks at her left hand.
And then I mentioned her wedding ring. I said, "Where's your wedding ring?"
Did this man take your wedding ring? And she said she doesn't remember. which is normal in a situation like that. It's a traumatic experience.
Then we talked about what she saw in terms of what this guy did. Hazel is wondering what's taken John so long.
He was outside and he had to come back in, and I wondered what happened. So I went down there, and it looked like there was another man there.
And she said she looked at this man and said, "What are you doing?" And he dropped her husband to the ground and said, "I'll show you what I'm doing."
He put electrical tape over my mouth.
Okay.
So I wouldn't scream.
And then he goes and starts ransacking. And then she remembers him coming back. And then he sexually assaults her.
In my own career, I have had elderly victims, and your heart just bleeds for them. What animal did this? You feel a need to find this person right now.
It was very, very painful for her in so many ways. So I focused on the suspect.
Let's talk about what he looked like, if you can, just for a little bit. How old was he, do you think?
Well, I would say maybe late 20s or 30s, something like that.
Okay. And how tall was he?
He was quite tall, and he had a mustache.
What race was he, do you know?
Just a white man, I would think. Maybe it was suntan, I don't know.
Maybe suntan?
Yeah.
That's a start. It's pretty vague, but it's better than Mr. X.
So I very quickly realized what I need to do is see if there's anyone else that knows about that house. And thankfully, there was a housekeeper. Once a week, somebody would come in and just clean the main areas.
And she said her name was Katie Powell, and she had a key to the house, but she doesn't work for us anymore. That draws Birch's attention.
I'm going to let you rest, okay?
Right.
Thank you, Hazel.
Now we've developed a name of somebody who has the ability to come and go from this home, who was terminated of their employment by the Dernoviches. Maybe it means nothing, maybe it means everything. Detective Darren Birch at Phoenix PD is investigating the brutal attack of an elderly couple, John and Hazel Dernovich.
This was a violent attack in their home. You're not human if it doesn't affect you in some way.
Detective Birch has interviewed the victims in this case and has learned that they terminated a housekeeper in the recent past. Her name is Katie Powell.
I scheduled a sit-down videotape interview, knowing that if something goes south, she lawyers up, I'll never see her again. I had to eliminate her as a suspect.
How's he feeling?
Better.
I started off very casual, not knowing where it was going to go.
Do you remember what you're doing that Monday? Don't have any idea.
I don't know.
Well, maybe that might be able to help you with it. Think back at, first of all, when you first realized something had occurred. Let's talk about that.
Oh my God.
What were you doing then?
I was sitting down watching TV. I could not believe what I was hearing. That's the only way I can describe it. I mean, it was just so devastating. It's like somebody hit me with a bat. It's the only way I can describe it. It hit me that hard.
She seemed very nice. She seemed genuinely concerned about John and Hazel. She didn't appear deceptive.
He said to her, "We understand you were fired by the Dernoviches. Can you tell us about that?"
I was OD'd on caretaking. And I don't think I had anything left. My cup was empty when it came to John and Hazel at that point. And I have a bad back, and I can only work. That's a big house for one person to clean. But I think Hazel was really getting attached to me. She loved me. I loved her. I always tell her, I love you guys. Be good to each other.
There wasn't really an issue with it in terms of bad blood. I didn't get that feeling at all.
Let's see here. Your work?
I was working at Jana King, a company my boyfriend runs.
What's your boyfriend's name?
Terry.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, it was funny too, because when all that happened, Terry had gone, "We were just over there."
When I learned that she had a boyfriend and he had been there, I had to really kind of look and decide whether or not there was a connection.
Birch is thinking like a cop. Everything about her says she's not a participant and has no knowledge of this offense. But her boyfriend, Terry Finley, is an X factor. What about him?
He knew about the house. He knew about the layout. All those things that the suspect might know, he would know. So I had to eliminate him.
Mr. Finley? Detective Burch, Phoenix PD. You mind if I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Burch then explains that he's in possession of information that Finley had recent contact with the Dernovich family, and they've been attacked in their home.
No.
Finley is shocked.
I was looking for a very angry criminal who had a criminal history of violence. He didn't fit that bill. He really didn't. I had a tight window. We knew when this crime occurred. He owned a business, and he also worked for someone at the same time. And so I was able to go and check on his work.
Mr. Finley was at work during the time frame of the crime, so he had no opportunity to be a participant in it.
All right, appreciate your time. Thank you.
No problem.
So what could be a lead is gone. Mr. Finley could not have done this. Burch is now in an unenviable position of having the best reliance on evidence found at the scene.
With such a violent scene, generally you get some type of evidence like sweat, DNA from the skin where someone's grabbing someone. Rape, you're going to have some type of DNA generally. I was shocked when he told me, we have nothing.
Nothing but the shoe print.
We don't have any DNA. We have no fingerprints. We had nothing other than a shoe print in the back alley.
No DNA, no fingerprints.
I may have had doubts with any other crime scene detective if they had told me they had nothing. But from Don, I knew for him to come up with nothing, there was nothing.
The indications are he wore gloves. Once again, a planned attack. This is not this guy's first rodeo. He knows not to leave touch DNA and other physical evidence behind.
This was a very difficult case from the get-go. They had experienced crime scene folks go in there with a fine-tooth comb, and they couldn't get anything that could lead them in the direction of this suspect, because the suspect was really careful. I mean, these crimes are really just mind-boggling.
Police have determined that the perpetrator selects his weapons from what he discovers in the premises.
In this particular MO, the suspect came with nothing other than gloves. He literally got the duct tape, the metal bar used to attack both John and Hazel, the flashlight. All these items were already at the scene, and that actually shows a sign of a organized ability to adapt to what's there. So he will have a criminal history, and sadly, he's gonna have a future until we catch him. The crime scene didn't give us any leads, so we have to recanvass the area. We talk with neighbors.
You never know what people see.
I'm with the police department. Sorry to wake you up.
But the only thing that Burch learns is that everyone thinks that Hazel and John Dernovich are wonderful. Why would anyone want to hurt them? They're the nicest people in this neighborhood.
I got to almost know the couple through the friends and neighbors. It was a love story. John and Hazel were grade school sweethearts, and they complemented each other, and they grew together.
They'd been together for 60-plus years. You know, they had a life together and were enjoying perhaps the last act when this terrible turn of events took place.
So there's more positive news about the family, but no news about who Mr. X might be.
Hazel called me every day, and I knew something was up because I got a voice message from her.
First message.
This is Hazel, and I just wanted to tell you that John had a heart attack Wednesday, and he's in the Baptist hospital, and I am too, so if you'd like to reach us, you can call us. Thank you.
I was so focused on the investigation, I didn't realize he was in harm's way and he was going to die. For them to, in the golden years, be brutalized like this and have that beautiful marriage end with such horrible tragedy. Not that I needed something to keep my focus on this case, but I just could not erase it. I could not erase that message.
Birch was overcome by anger, by rage, by guilt that he hadn't found who did this yet. I've had cases like that. I know what it feels like, and it is awful. It is beyond awful.
Failure wasn't an option, and that really sounds like cliche, I know it, but it really is so true. We could not fail Hazel and John with this case. We had to solve it. We had to give them justice.
Darren Birch is a very good man, and I'm not at all surprised that he was the one that took it upon himself to see what I think would initially appear to be an almost impossible case. It would be him that took it on and said, hell with that. I'm going to solve this, and I'm going to find that guy. Am I surprised that Darren did that? Yeah, I'm impressed, not a bit surprised. To label him just by his profession that he was a police officer, and he was that and a great one, but it's sort of limited because he's just a great man and a good guy.
After John died, everything seemed to kind of wash away. I had nothing left. So now it's time to look at crime analysis again in a different way. And that's when I really looked at the crime scene photos and I noticed her hand. And there was no wedding ring. And it reminded me about something that I couldn't deal with at the time because I didn't know what it meant. I looked at that photo and thought, I wonder if he removed it from her. She just didn't remember that.
This gives him something else to use in searching for similar cases. So he begins by looking at cases where wedding rings or jewelry has been taken from the victim during a violent sexual assault.
And that's when I found 3 robberies and a rape where the suspect physically pulled the ring off. That was huge. That was my guide. Because now I had not just the Dernovich crime scene, I had 4 other crime scenes I could look at to try to find this monster.
This is the same guy doing precisely the same crime because he is a serial rapist. Detective Darren Birch is investigating the attack on John and Hazel Dernovich. It's already cost John Dernovich his life. He has discovered other cases involving precisely the same MO.
This is a serial rapist by their very nature. It's what they do, what they want, what they live for.
He'd sneak up behind people in the dark of night or attack them while they're laying in their beds. He was brutalizing, tormenting these people who really are the most vulnerable victims.
When Birch is reviewing these 4 cases he finds in Phoenix, he notices that one particular victim seems to have more details than any of the others.
The one victim that really was wonderful in terms of helping police was Sophia Rosenthal.
Thanks for coming down. We appreciate it.
Whatever it takes to find him.
She is one of the best witnesses Birch has ever encountered.
That's the only way I can describe it.
She says this man recently broke into her home, attacked her, stole her wedding ring off her finger with such force that he broke her finger.
During my interview with her, I kept referring to the suspect as a white male, and all the other reports said white male.
Or Mediterranean look.
She distinctly remembers his appearance.
She literally said he was Mediterranean. And that was huge because that gave me another direction to take this.
Birch decides to put her with a police artist so they can draw this individual. But she's also an artist. and asks if she can draw the picture. Now, that's extremely unusual, but Rosenthal has the skills necessary. And she draws a very good drawing of an individual. Birch is elated that he has this drawing of this guy to show to Hazel Dernovich.
Unfortunately, the next time I interviewed her, she had a hard time talking about the rape. She could not identify him. From the composite that Sophia gave me, she couldn't give me any kind of description of the face itself, as if what she saw was a blank face. I think her memory of that event was so skewed by the horrific nature of that crime. It's just so brutally sad. I want to give her justice. And at least now we had a description. We had a composite. We had enough where we could find him. We could then build a case around it.
Birch has no idea where this guy is. He could be anywhere and could have been other places, doing precisely the same thing. This is what motivates him to make a national broadcast. He puts together a bulletin which he sends all over the country through a system called the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, asking for detectives who can respond with a similar case.
I had to catch him. We had to. He's going to kill someone if he hasn't already killed someone.
When you put out these bulletins, you wait for it to simmer on the stove to see if it makes soup. You're hopeful you're going to get replies, but you have no way of knowing if you will.
At this point, oh my gosh, 9 months is going by. The frustrations were horrible, heart-wrenching. Every week, I put that bulletin out, week after week, after month after month.
In 1998, I was a detective with the Oakland Park Police Department in South Florida. Teletypes would come through 24 hours a day from all agencies. Each day when I came to work, I would kind of skim through them to see if anything pertained to what I was doing. And there was a teletype from Detective Birch from Phoenix. And I'm reading the teletype, and this could have been reading my own police report. It was the same exact story.
I still got chills thinking about that phone call. Karen told me, I have a case just like yours, and it happened on October 20th. October 20th is literally the next day after the Dernovich crime. That shocked me. To be that brazen, such a sexual predator, that 24 hours later, he does a crime other side of the country.
I was assigned a home invasion case that resulted in a sexual battery. It was an elderly couple. The husband was disabled. The suspect had forced his way into the home when she answered the door. He came with no supplies. He used her plastic gloves. He immediately took her wedding ring. After he finished ransacking the house, the sexual battery took place.
She then tells Birch the critical piece of information he was so hopeful to receive.
We did lift one fingerprint off the dresser that he had left there prior to putting the gloves on. And we had a hit on the print. It matched to Mike Metlow, who also went by the name of Mike Urick.
I literally did a happy dance and yelled to my boss, we got him, we got a name. And that's everything, because now you can compare prints and DNA. You can do all those things. You just have to have a name. We didn't have that before. It was so exciting.
Immediately, I tried to do a criminal history on him. And I came up with numerous names, numerous dates of birth, driver's licenses.
She realizes that he is a member or a former member of a Romani clan.
Romani immigrants from Eastern Europe celebrating the birthday of a Chicago Roma king with music, dancing, and a traditional feast. But law enforcement officials say there are other families who have no connection to this one that are involved in organized crime rings. For decades, they roamed America in caravans of travel trailers and pickup trucks. But police say these criminals have changed with the times.
Become so bold now that they fly to various parts of the country and rent vehicles out there.
Most of the cases I dealt with were over monetary contractual deals. It was always roof repairs, driveway repairs, things that weren't done or accomplished. Somebody comes out and says they can do it for $800 cash today, and you don't see them the next day, and your roof's still in disrepair. That's called a learning lesson.
It was an incredible education, learning about the crime syndicates, these organized families. I knew nothing other than what I saw in movies.
Mr. Urick is a member of one of these groups, which very conveniently explains his touring around the country. They move to avoid arrest.
Mike Urick is with the family doing these cons and doing these scams, but there's a certain part of him, that sexual predator, that violent nature that needs to attack women is there. And I think at some point he goes rogue, he goes off the rails, and he starts doing these side crimes.
She tells Birch that, in her opinion, it's likely Urick has fled the state of Florida. Now the question becomes, where is he?
There was no leads. We canvassed the neighborhood. I found one neighbor that had found a yellow station wagon during the time of the crime parked 2 houses away. He thought it was odd because it had Arizona tags on it, and that was a rental house that was vacant. So I got a search warrant for the townhome. It was a jackpot. It was filled with large green garbage bags, packed floor to ceiling, every room. I found a huge duffel bag in one of the closets, filled with jewelry. Later we figured out it was over $250,000 in jewelry in it.
So there in this crime scene, rings, lots and lots of rings. My victims' rings were there, and I couldn't believe it.
I found about 20 boxes of brand new sneakers, Reebok sneakers. When I had talked to Detective Birch, he said he had a footprint left at his scene from a Reebok sneaker. So at that point, I took scans of them and sent him the scans I had to see if they matched any of his footprints that were left at the scene.
I was so excited with that because now I can bring in the only evidence I have with the Dernovich case. It was that shoe print.
Birch is now armed with more than a drawing and a description. He's armed with a photograph and a name. It's Mike Urick, and this is his picture. He adds that to his bulletin and sends that across the country, and what returns is a flood of information.
Police departments from across the country are reporting activity of Mike Urick. So I'm getting calls from Nevada, Utah, Texas, New Mexico, Indiana. I'm just getting flooded calls.
One of the replies to Birch's bulletin comes from the Chicago Police Department. They informed Birch that patrol officers responded to a crime in progress where Michael Urick was attacking an elderly woman without realizing that her daughter was hiding upstairs and was on the phone to 911. Chicago PD arrives and arrests Mr. Urick in the act of committing the crime. When they take him before a judge and a court, Urick's attorney argues that he suffers from mental incompetence.
He was convicted and sentenced to a mental health ward. And I was able to explain to him who this monster was that they had in custody. They had no idea any of this was happening. They just had their one crime. And because of that, he was going to be getting out real soon. So we all suddenly went from we had plenty of time in the world to we have to go now.
Detective Birch has been working the Dernovich case and has obtained information that his suspect is Mike Urick, who is currently in a psychiatric ward in Illinois. Birch's plan is to go there, interrogate Urick, and get information from him that allows him to be charged in the Dernovich case. There are probably a dozen other states that want a piece of Mike Urick, and Birch is determined to get the first slice of Urick's pie. Birch is aware he needs to move quickly.
Darren realized that there are other cops in other cities that are going to grab this guy. And he said, you know what, for John and Hazel, I'm going to make sure they come back to Arizona.
He takes his sergeant and they fly to Illinois to interrogate Mike Urick before he's released and in the wind again.
What was nice about having a supervisor like Jim Markey is that he was like a detective. He truly cared about these cases and excited like a detective when they're starting to piece it together, when the trail starts to make sense and everything goes to a suspect and you get him in custody, that excitement of getting your man. On top of that, the brutal nature of this criminal and these poor victims that lay in the wake. He was as galvanized to make sure this guy paid for these crimes. So it was great. And it was kind of nice having him there because I had this supervisor. There was a lot of pressure. And so I was nervous. I've done so many interviews in my 30 years. It was different in the sense that I had so much at stake. I kept hearing the recording of Hazel talking about when John died. I wanted to get him to make some admission.
He has a cassette tape with a 30-minute span. He's got 30 minutes to have Urick say something incriminating.
And when he started walking up, he's a big guy.
He could have squished me with one thigh. I mean, that's how big this guy was.
And he has that look, like, the only way I can describe it is arrogance. And he comes in, and there's a calm that came over me. Because now, I got you. And now you gotta play by my rules.
This is Detective Birch with the City of Phoenix Police Department, and I'm with Sergeant James Markey to interview one Michael Urick or Michael Metlow, who is an inmate at the Dixon Correctional Facility. And you are Mike Metlow?
Yep.
Okay, Mike, I'm Detective Birch, and I'm from a long way to talk to you.
As the conversation begins, he waives his rights and says he has nothing to hide. Perfect, Mr. Urick. Let's have a conversation. Birch begins asking innocuous questions. Could we have an address for you?
I can't tell you exactly the address, but it was in Phoenix. You remember those freeways? Because that kind of helped me get an idea of what part of Phoenix.
The 27th Street, Camelback.
27th Street, Camelback?
Yeah, 27th Street.
I had so much adrenaline, excitement by this time that I was containing it because I knew he had just given up himself at the location where the Dernovich lived at the time of the crime.
He doesn't react to that, but in his mind, strike one for Mr. Urick.
I'll be honest, it's a guilty pleasure. It's a guilty pleasure to be able to look at that monster in the face and use a ruse against him. So I talked about the property aspect of his crimes. He was stealing rings.
Now, I don't even understand why you even coming with it. Well, you guys came all this way to this?
Why do you think we're in?
Yeah, think about it. I don't even know what you're talking about.
There's a way of talking to the con men. You have to confront them every time they tell you a lie or every time they change their story, and you can't let it wait.
Hey, Mike, I'll be honest with you. We're going to go for the kill zone. We're going to go through the whole enchilada, Mike. We're not here.
They think they're conning you. You got to confront them immediately because it throws them off.
Jim Markey showed the shoe print and said, well, these are your shoes, as if that's a given.
Let me see those pictures. What you got there? You'll notice the Reeboks were shoe prints. I got lucky on this one. I really did. These were very unusual shoes. They did a warrant in Florida and came up with the same shoe box, which is of this special type of shoe.
And then he bid on it.
That's in my shoe print.
I was shocked. My jaw may have dropped because I did not expect that.
That's strike 2 and 3. He's an instinctual animal when it comes to physical attack, but he's a moron when it comes to anything else.
We had very little time left in the recording, so I felt this was the perfect time to bring the hammer down. We have nothing to lose, and we have everything to gain.
Okay. I mean, really straightly, we have 2 victims that positively identified you. One of them did a composite, which was a beautiful composite, actually. But now we have these 2 other rings. And we know it's you because it's a print and it matched it with this and with prints that we got at the scene. And with this photo, we had the case. It was a done deal. And then the cherry on top is what we would call is physical evidence. Physical evidence doesn't lie. People can make mistakes, people can lie, but physical evidence, prints don't lie. And is it not Phoenix right now? It is.
When you get a statement like that, then you just hit the ball out of Yankee Stadium. You did this in a few minutes, and Urick is beyond cooperative in terms of providing you with the rope you need to hang him with.
And the look on his face, that's when he exploded. It was like popping a balloon.
There's more than sufficient evidence to cause the extradition of Mr. Urick back to Phoenix, Arizona to face charges in the Dernovich case. And since they have him first, everyone else is going to have to wait.
Afterwards, we were giddy with excitement. We got him. It just felt really good. So good that before we hit the plane back to Phoenix, we saw a Chicago Cubs game at Wrigley Field. It was really cool. It was just one of those moments that I'll never forget.
So if you consider what Urick did in the Dernovich case, he's thinking about this. He's surveilling them. He identifies them as weak and elderly, easily overcome. When he climbed over that fence, Urick opened the shed and he finds the bar from a weight set. He picks it up and walks to the power box to kill the main power supply to the house.
John was the handyman. So when the power went out, there wasn't even a second thought what John was going to do. He was going to check the breakers.
John? What are you doing?
Show you around.
The idea of a home invasion, both husband and wife brutally beaten, gagged, bound, and then for her to be raped was beyond the pale.
After he assaults Hazel, he takes her wedding ring. He commits this violent, horrible crime, goes right back out over the same fence, leaves his shoe print in the mud, and goes on his merry way. He's off to find another victim.
As soon as we take the flight back to Phoenix, we have the photographic lineup that I've done with these other victims, these robbery victims.
That's him.
And every one of them was able to positively identify Mike Urick as the person who attacked them. I have all this great stuff, this literally, truly a mountain of evidence. He pled out to a lot of crimes. He pled out to the sexual assault of Sophia. He did plead out to attacking John and Hazel. It was just a matter of sentencing him.
He knows that he's going to be locked up in a box for the rest of his days and decides the coward's way out is to end his life. He makes a noose out of a bedsheet and hangs himself in the cell.
I was glad. He saved the victims from having to go to court. I was very happy to hear that he killed himself. I really was. It was this beautiful love story. And And for it to end on such a horrific note of not just tragedy, but torment, that hurts.
To have something like this happen to him, you think, why? And I don't know if there's ever going to be a good answer to that.
As an investigator, you want to give everyone justice. The culmination of this case, the arrest, that was all because of the Dernoviches. Their ability to provide me a detailed account of what he did is what gave me the persistence to continue this investigation and look for other potential victims. Because of them, we got this monster.
Detective Darren Birch doesn't quit. He does what he was made to do. Find the bad guy. Somebody has to.
When a teenage girl was found dead in a creek, the police said it was an accident. But was it?
She had all these head injuries. I see her knuckles. They're all battered. And I realized, no, these are defensive wounds. She's fought for her life. You've got to look into this as if it's murder.
Determined to find her daughter's killer, a mother went in search of justice.
There is someone out there, and they're getting away with murder.
Her investigation led her to consider the unthinkable. Was her daughter's death a result of something she did?
It just made me so sick to think it could have been solved in weeks. Instead, it was a 17-year saga.
Today, we're in Anchorage, Alaska, for the first episode of Someone is Getting Away with Murder. I'm Sloan Glass, and this is American Homicide. Just a note that this episode contains some graphic content. Please take care while listening. Relocating from Southern California to Anchorage was a big deal for Karen Foster and her family.
My children had never been to an area like Anchorage before, and I was concerned that they would not enjoy the winters, the cold. But they totally adapted immediately.
Ditching their shorts for snowsuits went easier than expected for Karen and her children.
You know, Anchorage is incredible, and there's so much to see, and the kids were learning so much. You know, going to glaciers, ski hills, you've got parks, you've got hiking trails. There's just so much adventure there.
Arguably, Karen's most active child was her daughter, Bonnie, who by most accounts was not your typical teenager. She wrote poetry, played the violin, and planned to become a psychologist.
She started a group of students against drunk drivers when she lost a really good friend of hers. So she was very kind, caring, just a sweetheart to everybody.
Bonnie had brown hair, a face full of freckles, and stood just 5 feet tall. Not exactly someone you'd expect to see on a wrestling mat.
She was into wrestling, which is something I never really wanted her to do.
At her high school, Bonnie even managed to break the glass ceiling.
She was the first female wrestler in the state of Alaska.
Kristen McCart was friends with Bonnie.
She was always trying to, do things that other people would perceive they shouldn't do. It was hard not to be friends with Bonnie. She was probably one of the kindest people I've ever met. It was almost impossible for somebody not to like her.
Bonnie graduated from high school in 1994 and planned to follow her boyfriend to college in California. But her plan didn't work out.
Everybody's talking about, what are you going to do next year? And Bonnie seemed sad a little bit about graduating, and she wasn't going to be going out of state.
So Bonnie's mom wanted her to stay home for her freshman year.
But ultimately, that was her plan, was to go out of state with him.
In 1994, Kristen and Bonnie started classes at the University of Alaska in Anchorage.
We were both working pretty much full-time to help pay for college because neither of us wanted a lot of debt.
On Wednesday, September 28th, 1994, Bonnie left her home before sunrise to catch her bus to campus.
But nobody remembered seeing her at school that day.
Bonnie never showed up for her 7 a.m. English class, or any of her classes that day.
It was really weird that she didn't come to school, because she didn't I don't remember her ever missing a day of school in high school. Like, even when she was sick, she would still show up.
That evening, Kristen's boyfriend learned why Bonnie didn't make it to class.
He said they found Bonnie's body. And I was like, what? Like, total shock. He just says, yeah, they found her body at McHugh Creek. They don't know what happened. And, like, I just started crying.
McHugh Creek runs through a state park, some 10 miles from both the University of Alaska campus and Bonnie's home in Anchorage.
We all wondered, like, how she got there. She didn't even drive a car.
Bonnie didn't have a driver's license and preferred taking public transportation. But no buses went to that forest preserve.
And that was such a long walk. You would have to walk down the highway quite a ways.
All of that added to the mystery.
It would have meant that she chose to get in a car with someone, which she wouldn't have done. So in my mind and in the mind of most of our friends, we knew something had happened to cause her to end up in McHugh Creek.
Bonnie's mother, Karen, was vacationing in Florida when an Alaska state trooper called her with the news.
A trooper gets on the line and he says that my daughter, Bonnie, is dead. She fell in a hiking accident.
The trooper explained that Bonnie slipped off a ledge at a state park in Anchorage, hit her head on some jagged rocks, and plunged more than 30 feet into a creek. He told her that another hiker spotted her body that afternoon and called the police.
I'm in total denial. And I asked them, who was with her? He says there was no one with her. I said, she didn't drive. How would she have gotten out there? And he has no answer for me. I said, what time was she found? And he said 2:00 in the afternoon. I said, no, she should have been at the university. She had papers that were due, and she had a paper that she was going to be handing in that day at her English class.
If Bonnie had gone hiking that afternoon, that meant she would have had to skip school.
There's no way that Bonnie would have missed a class. She was very particular about going to school and going to her classes.
Bonnie was found in a creek several miles from campus with a dozen cuts to her head, including a deep gash at the base of her skull. She also had bruises on her knuckles. And strangely, Bonnie's backpack, keys, and even the can of mace attached to her keychain were missing.
Nothing made sense. So I immediately told him, no, it's got to be murder. You've got to look into this as if it's murder.
Karen spent the long flight home trying to make sense of what the troopers told her.
So from Florida back to Alaska, you're at least 12 hours flying time. And you can't sleep. And you're shaking. Who would hurt Bonnie? How could this be?
Bonnie was a creature of habit and had a routine every morning when she went to school.
So that morning, Bonnie would have gotten up probably around 5:30, walked down the block, and then out to a bus stop, almost a mile from the house. She would have been at the university from a 7 a.m. class until 3 in the afternoon.
Karen wondered if someone had been watching Bonnie and knew her usual route. And that's when a thought sent chills down her spine.
So I was a reserve police officer with the Anchorage Police Department, and we would go out and buy drugs from certain people. We also had informants that would tell us who the people were and who was selling drugs and stuff like that. And just before Bonnie was murdered, we did a major bust.
Although Karen worked undercover, her name was listed throughout the court documents.
All over the indictment is my name again and again and again. They know who I am, and the people that I identified had been released from jail the day before.
Those drug dealers Karen helped to put away were back on the street the day before Bonnie's mysterious death.
You just never thought that somebody like that would hurt your child. It just made me so sick to think, oh my God, Bonnie may be dead because of my work with the police department.
I'm Clayton Eckerd, and in 2022, I was the lead of ABC's The Bachelor.
Unfortunately, it didn't go according to plan. He became the first Bachelor to ever have his final rose rejected. The internet turned on him.
If I could press a button and rewind it all, I would.
But what happened to Clayton after the show made even bigger headlines. It began as a one-night stand and ended in a courtroom, with Clayton at the center of a very strange paternity scandal.
The media is here. This case has gone viral.
The dating contract.
Agree to date me, but I'm also suing you.
Police search warrant.
This is unlike anything I've ever seen before.
I'm Stephanie Young. This is Love Trapped. This season, an epic battle of he said, she said, and the search for accountability in a sea of lies.
I have done nothing except get pregnant by the Bachelor!
Listen to Love Trapped on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Next Monday, our 2026 iHeart Podcast Awards are happening live at South by Southwest.
This is the biggest night in podcasting.
We'll honor the very best in podcasting from the past year and celebrate the most innovative talent and creators in the industry.
And the winner is...
Creativity, knowledge, and passion will all be on full display.
Thank you so much, iHeartRadio. Thank you to all the other nominees. You guys are awesome.
Watch live next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, free at Veeps.com or the Veeps app.
Hi, this is Jo Winterstein, host of the Spirit Daughter podcast, where we talk about astrology, natal charts, and how to step into your most vibrant life. And I just sat down with a Minnie Driver.
The Irish traveler said when I was 16, you're going to have a terrible time with men.
Actor, storyteller, and unapologetic Aquarian visionary. Aquarius is all about freedom-loving and different perspectives, and I find a lot of people with strong placements in Aquarius are misunderstood. A Sun and Venus in Aquarius in her 7th house spark her unconventional approach to partnership.
He really has taught me to embrace people sleeping in different rooms, on different houses, in different places, but just an embracing of the isness of it all.
If you're navigating your own transformation or just want a chart-side view into how a leading artist integrates astrology, creativity, and real life, this episode is a must listen. Listen to the Spirit Daughter podcast starting on February 24th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
In 2023, a story gripped the UK, evoking horror and disbelief.
The nurse who should have been in charge of caring for tiny babies is now the most prolific child killer in modern British history.
Everyone thought they knew how it ended. A verdict, a villain, a nurse named Lucy Letby.
Lucy Letby has been found guilty.
But what if we didn't get the whole story?
The moment you look at the whole picture, the case collapses.
I'm Amanda Knox, and in the new podcast, Doubt, the Case of Lucy Letby, we follow the evidence and hear from the people that lived it to ask what really happened when the world decided who Lucy Letby was.
No voicing of any skepticism or doubt.
It'll cause so much harm at every single level of the British establishment of this is wrong.
Listen to Doubt, the Case of Lucy Letby on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. 18-year-old Bonnie Craig was supposed to be in school on the morning of September 28, 1994. Instead, the police found her face down in a creek, some 10 miles from her college campus. They ruled her death a hiking accident, but after viewing her daughter's remains, Bonnie's mother, Karen, was furious.
You see Bonnie's body, and I see her knuckles. They're all battered. And I realized, no, these are defensive wounds. She's fought for her life. And I told them, you need to get back here, take more pictures. It's not a hiking accident.
Karen worked with the Anchorage Police Department and at the time had recently helped break up a dangerous drug cartel. She feared that bust might be connected to Bonnie's death.
Because of the work I've been doing, maybe they have gone after me. Maybe they are doing that to get back at me, to get back at Anchorage Police Department.
Alaska State Troopers took a second look at Bonnie's autopsy and agreed that her death was not accidental. But they assured Karen it was not the work of a local drug cartel.
They said, no, this had to be somebody on their own. There wasn't more than one person involved in this.
At the time, the troopers were focused on a different suspect, Karen's ex-husband, Gary. Gary was not Bonnie's biological father, but he raised her. This was the person she called Dad.
Gary and I got married when Bonnie was just 3 years old. So Gary took over as Dad immediately and was always Dad to her.
But Karen and Gary's marriage didn't last. The two divorced in 1992, which stung their children.
You know, they didn't want their mom and dad divorced. That's hard for kids.
Although Karen and Gary tried to remain civil, it wasn't easy. Things got especially tense when Bonnie decided to move in with Gary, right before she started college.
I was devastated when Bonnie moved out. I mean, I was so hurt because she didn't tell me. She said, I didn't want to tell you because I knew you would want to stop me. It's going to be easier for me to get to school and to college, she was talking about.
So just before college started, Bonnie moved in with her then former stepdad. And there was a reason the police wanted to question him.
Gary was supposed to be out of town, and he came back early. In fact, he got back the night before, and he was in bed sleeping when Bonnie left for school the next day.
That caught the attention of investigators.
Because he came back early, and Bonnie ended up dead the next day, they were looking into it.
It was an uncomfortable situation, not only for Gary, but for Karen.
Gary was her dad. He loved her dearly. But yet, I still started to think, could it have been him? You know, we'd gone through a nasty divorce, and he wasn't happy with me. There was anger towards me, but no, not to the kids.
Investigators didn't want to spook Gary, so they came up with a plan. They asked Karen, Gary, and all of their children to voluntarily provide their fingerprints and a sample of DNA.
They were afraid that if they just asked Gary, that he might lawyer up.
But Gary didn't lawyer up. He cooperated with investigators and told them he had an alibi.
They had talked to people where he worked, and he was in the office that day.
3 months after Gary supplied his DNA to investigators, he was finally cleared.
So we know that they did interview members of the family and her boyfriend. But at the time, they were quickly ruled out as suspects.
Maria Downey worked for an Anchorage TV station.
Bonnie was Karen Foster's daughter, someone who I've known for years.
The two were longtime friends. And for Maria, covering the murder investigation of a friend's daughter wasn't easy.
It was really tough. I think it was tough for the whole community to hear that because Bonnie was such a well-loved young lady. She was Alaska grown. She was always involved from high school to junior high and at the university, very active in the community, really intelligent young girl, kind, compassionate. And so it really hit the community hard.
Karen confided in Maria and shared the frustration she had with the Alaska State Troopers.
She felt like troopers weren't doing enough because she believed right away there was a killer out there.
The troopers originally declared Bonnie's death an accident, which upset Karen. But once investigators came around to what Karen originally suspected, she was equally dismayed at how little homicide detectives shared with her. Keep in mind, Karen was an insider, one of them, and yet she was still shut out.
The repeat line was they weren't releasing more information. Now, we're all aware during a murder investigation, you do withhold key information. But in this case, so much information was withheld that I really do think it jeopardized their case, because people out there who might have noticed something suspicious going on never said anything because they thought it was accidental at the time.
Karen was a mom on a mission. Nothing was going to stop her. She responded by holding press conferences of her own.
I think it was so important to hear from Karen because we were getting so little information from the troopers that she helped to fill in some of the blanks where Bonnie was supposed to be, what she typically would be doing that time of day. And it really helped, I think, the community to start being more aware of what they might have seen that day.
Karen then took it a step further. She started her own investigation. Any lead that came in, she'd personally look into, including one about a student from Bonnie's English class.
And she showed me excerpts from a student's journal, a student who happened to be in class with Bonnie. And they were really disturbing, very graphic, very violent stories within this journal.
He mentioned that September 28th was going to be a very stressful day for him, that he was being put to a test.
September 28th was the day of Bonnie's murder. And this student who wrote that September 28th would be a stressful day for him was absent from class that day.
He seemed very violent and very angry, and in one location it even said, "Die, bitch."
Later that day, on September 28th, that student eventually showed up to his professor's office.
And he came to her office later on in the day, and he looked soaking wet, like he'd just gotten out of the shower. And she said he reeked of perfume.
That student informed the professor that he had been at McHugh Creek that day when they pulled a body out of the water. It was Bonnie Craig.
We both thought that was incredibly strange. And so we brought that to the troopers again, and they said that they'd already looked into him and they'd taken his DNA, and DNA didn't match.
It was another dead end for investigators. By this point, nearly all of Bonnie's family, friends, and acquaintances had been questioned and cleared, meaning the suspect likely was someone Bonnie didn't know. 3 long years would pass before the Alaska State Troopers revealed new details about Bonnie's murder to the public.
The troopers told me Bonnie was raped.
On the 3rd anniversary of Bonnie's murder, Alaska State Troopers publicly shared that Bonnie had been sexually assaulted and severely beaten just before she toppled over a cliff and plunged to her death. They hoped this information would help someone come forward with a name. Bonnie's mother once again felt this information would have been helpful earlier in the investigation.
3 years after she was abducted, raped, and murdered, they finally allowed the public to know. It was really difficult.
So the story just kind of kept unfolding along the way. It's just stunning.
Journalist Maria Downey had never heard of holding this information from the public for so long.
We asked the troopers repeatedly why they waited so long and why this information wasn't released, and we never quite got a clear answer.
At that same 1997 press conference, the Alaska State Troopers also shared that the backpack Bonnie was carrying that morning was never recovered.
The troubling part about this is that I think more information, a lot more details would have helped this case.
I'm Clayton Eckerd, and in 2022, I was the lead of ABC's The Bachelor.
Unfortunately, it didn't go according to plan. He became the first bachelor to ever have his final rose rejected. The internet turned on him.
If I could press a button and rewind it all, I would.
But what happened to Clayton after the show made even bigger headlines. It began as a one-night stand and ended in a courtroom, with Clayton at the center of a very strange paternity scandal.
The media is here. This case has gone viral.
The dating contract.
Agree to date me, but I'm also suing you.
Please search warrant.
This is unlike anything I've ever seen before.
I'm Stephanie Young. This is Love Trapped. This season, an epic battle of he said, she said, and the search for accountability in a sea of lies.
I have done nothing except get pregnant by the Bachelor!
Listen to Love Trapped on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Next Monday, our 2026 iHeart Podcast Awards are happening live at South by Southwest.
This is the biggest night in podcasting.
We'll honor the very best in podcasting from the past year and celebrate the most innovative talent and creators in the industry.
And the winner is...
Creativity, knowledge, and passion will all be on full display.
Thank you so much, iHeartRadio. Thank you to all the other nominees. You guys are awesome.
Watch live next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, free at Veeps.com or the Veeps app.
Hi, this is Jill Winterstein, host of the Spirit Daughter podcast, where we talk about astrology, natal charts, and how to step into your most vibrant life. And I just sat down with a Minnie Driver.
The Irish traveller said when I was 16, you're going to have a terrible time with men.
Actor, storyteller, and unapologetic Aquarian visionary. Aquarius is all about freedom-loving and different perspectives, and I find a lot of people with strong placements in Aquarius are misunderstood. A Sun and Venus in Aquarius in her 7th house spark her unconventional approach to partnership.
He really has taught me to embrace people sleeping in different rooms, on different houses, in different places, but just an embracing of the isness of it all.
If you're navigating your own transformation or just want a chart-side view into how a leading artist integrates astrology, creativity, and real life, this episode is a must listen. Listen to the Spirit Daughter podcast starting on February 24th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
In 2023, a story gripped the UK, evoking horror and disbelief.
The nurse who should have been in charge of caring for tiny babies is now the most prolific child killer in modern British history.
Everyone thought they knew how it ended. A verdict, a villain, a nurse named Lucy Letby.
Lucy Letby has been found guilty.
But what if we didn't get the whole story?
The moment you look at the whole picture, the case collapses.
I'm Amanda Knox, and in the new podcast, Doubt, the Case of Lucy Letby, we follow the evidence and hear from the people that lived it to ask what really happened when the world decided who Lucy Letby was.
No voicing of any skepticism or doubt.
It'll cause so much harm at every single level of the British establishment of this is wrong.
Listen to Doubt, the Case of Lucy Letby on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Bonnie Craig was murdered in 1994. Throughout their investigation, the Alaska State Troopers questioned dozens of suspects. But by the year 2000, the case remained unsolved.
We covered this story for months, and then it was years.
Journalist Maria Downey.
As time went on, we heard very little about the case. It could very well be investigators were working behind the scenes on it, but there were still posters and there were still flyers being disseminated years after to help solve this case.
Frustrated with the investigation, Bonnie's mother, Karen, did her own detective work.
Many mothers, they want to find justice. They'll do all they can to find closure, to find the person responsible for their child's death. But Karen took it not just one, not just two, but many, many steps forward from there. She was that steady, informational source who would uncover things on her own and investigate her own daughter's case. And she continually kept front and center to get that information out to help solve this case.
Karen did everything she could to keep the unsolved case in the news. She continued to host her own press conferences, and she made sure that Bonnie's face remained in the public eye throughout Anchorage.
There were signs all over town. We're talking big billboard signs, bus signs, basically to help find Bonnie's killer. And that went on for years.
In giant letters, these billboards asked, "Who killed Bonnie?" and "Someone's getting away with murder."
I had people walking up to me all the time, giving me a hug and saying they were sorry. They were total strangers, but they knew from the amount of interviews I had done that I was Bonnie's mom.
Some people even called Karen with tips late at night. Even some psychics contacted her. No matter how far-fetched the information they shared may have seemed, Karen took all of them seriously.
The DNA came up with a match.
This was the moment that Karen had been waiting for.
You're just hoping so much that, yes, make this it. And get the evidence so that we can convict somebody.
But there's more. The Alaska lab that did that testing was equipped to test 6 spots of DNA. Then investigators ordered a more advanced DNA test that looked at 13 different points of DNA.
After they did a second DNA test, they knew, no, this isn't the guy. It was unbelievable. Just friggin' unbelievable.
I can't imagine her disappointment. That had to have felt like 2 steps forward, 1 huge step back. It was another blow to investigators and Karen.
It was like my guts had been ripped out. I basically shut down.
In September 2001, Karen had plans to do her annual press conference on the anniversary of Bonnie's death. But then came 9/11.
After September 11th, I decided, our whole nation's grieving, and it was time to move on. The murder of 1 girl in Alaska was nothing compared to September 11th.
Instead of going back on the media circuit, Karen decided to take a more low-key route.
Not that I was ever going to give up. I would always check with the Alaska State Troopers and ask what was going on, if they're doing anything, is there any leads?
Their answer was always the same: nothing. In 2002, the TV show Unsolved Mysteries highlighted Bonnie's case. But once again, there were no arrests. It wouldn't be until 2006, some 12 years after Bonnie Craig's murder, that news came in about the investigation.
I am in Thailand on a remote island, and I get this emails saying that it's from the Alaska State Troopers and that he would really like to talk to me.
Karen managed to get to a telephone. That's when she heard the words that she'd been waiting over a decade to hear.
He found the killer.
DNA evidence led Alaska State Troopers to a suspect some 3,000 miles away in New Hampshire.
They had identified somebody whose DNA matched.
The suspect was a man named Kenneth Dion, who at the time was 37 years old.
He was addicted to OxyContin and successfully robbed a couple of pharmacies to get his OxyContin.
At the time of his arrest, Kenneth Dion was serving time for those robberies. In 2006, his DNA was put into the National CODIS database and quickly matched the DNA found in Bonnie.
They were almost 100% sure that this was the guy who killed Bonnie.
Alaska troopers flew out to New Hampshire to interview Kenneth Dion. Kenneth claimed he had no memory of Bonnie and denied any involvement in her murder. But his DNA said otherwise. So the police arrested Kenneth and charged him with sexually assaulting and murdering Bonnie Craig. In the 12 years between Bonnie's death and the arrest, the name Kenneth Dion never came up as a suspect.
He didn't know Bonnie and none of us knew him. It was a total random crime.
Even with her daughter's suspected killer in custody, Karen couldn't shake a bad feeling.
I always thought I would be so excited and relieved to hear that. And I just got so fearful, thinking, oh my God, are we going to be able to convict him? All we've got is DNA.
And his defense team would put up a fight that would force investigators to account for a key piece of missing evidence.
All you need is one juror who could end up throwing the case.
All of which would push Karen's patience to its limits.
It could have been solved in weeks. Instead, it was a 17-year saga.
And it would end with Karen engaged in a totally different fight.
No. It's too important. We need to change this law now.
In the conclusion of Someone is Getting Away with Murder, we'll go into the courtroom where a key piece of evidence goes missing. I'm Sloan Glass. That's next time on American Homicide. For 12 years, signs hung all over Anchorage asking, who killed Bonnie Craig?
There were signs on all the buses, there were signs on benches, there was flyers.
With no arrests, the victim's mother lost hope.
It wasn't investigated real well. They don't have a lot of evidence.
And then, finally, the suspect turned up in a prison some 4,500 miles away. But did he kill Bonnie?
This man stands up and starts yelling at Bonnie's family that they're all liars and that he didn't do anything.
The only evidence was a drop of blood and some DNA. Would it be enough to get a conviction?
It's always a crapshoot. All you need is one juror who could end up throwing the case.
Today, we're in Anchorage, Alaska for the conclusion of Someone is Getting Away with Murder. I'm Sloan Glass, and this is American Homicide. Just a note that this episode contains some graphic content. Please take care while listening. Bonnie Craig was an 18-year-old college freshman at the University of Alaska in Anchorage. On the morning of September 28, 1994, Bonnie headed to class. That afternoon, Bonnie was dead. Her body was found floating in a creek inside of a state park some 10 miles from campus.
Those moments, it's etched in my brain, and you don't forget something like that.
That's Bonnie's friend, Amy Novotny.
How could this happen to somebody like Bonnie? It didn't seem real. It didn't seem real at all.
After first calling Bonnie's death a hiking accident, Alaska State Troopers later ruled it a homicide.
I don't recall anybody ever thinking it was an accident. Just didn't make sense.
You can learn a lot about Bonnie Craig by looking at her college schedule. While most college freshmen were asleep at 7 a.m., Bonnie was already in class. Her friends and family said if you believed Bonnie willingly skipped school to go hiking, you didn't know Bonnie.
Bonnie was very reliable and she wouldn't have missed school.
The fact that her body turned up more than 10 miles from her home raised plenty of questions.
Bonnie didn't drive. That's quite a ways away from where she lived or, from the university.
And if she walked,
it would take probably, several hours to walk to McHugh Creek from her home.
Bonnie exclusively took the bus to campus. None of those buses went to McHugh Creek.
Just a lot of unanswered questions at that point. Something was definitely wrong.
Investigators later revealed that Bonnie not only was murdered, but also had been sexually assaulted. Even with that DNA evidence, 12 years went by without an arrest.
How come nobody's coming forward? Somebody knows something. Is this ever going to get figured out?
Every new promising lead fizzled out, leaving Bonnie's family and friends feeling uneasy.
It was scary. Scary. And that went on for a lot of years. Every year, I think it got a little bit more difficult.
At the forefront of the investigation was Bonnie's fierce and strong-willed mother, Karen. She gave frequent press conferences and was responsible for putting up all those signs throughout Anchorage that said, "Who killed Bonnie?" and "Someone is getting away with murder."
Karen was a very determined person. She was going to get to the bottom of it.
As Amy and Bonnie's other friends graduated college, got married, and had children, they couldn't help but wonder, what if?
Definitely every year it kind of just breaks your heart and you kind of think of all the amazing things that Bonnie would have amounted to. Places that she would have gone, the family that she could have started and just living life like the rest of us. Those things go through your mind every year.
Bonnie Craig was killed in 1994. It wasn't until 2006 when police had a man in custody in New Hampshire.
That was one of the best days. I think I cried tears of joy. They finally had who was responsible for taking such a wonderful person away from so many people.
The suspect was a 37-year-old former Alaska resident named Kenneth Dion.
The name makes me utterly sick to my stomach. Utterly sick.
So who is Kenneth Dion? At the time of his arrest, he was serving time in a New Hampshire prison for armed robbery. Back in 1994, Kenneth was 25 years old and living in Anchorage.
Like a lot of people that end up in Alaska, Kenneth Dion was stationed here in the military.
Journalist Casey Grove covered the story.
At some point, divorced his wife, or she divorced him, and he apparently was into crime.
Kenneth was discharged from the military and later served some time for a string of robberies. Just 2 months before Bonnie's murder, Kenneth was released from prison in Alaska and placed on probation. He then violated his parole and was sent back to prison. After his release in 1996, he left Alaska for New Hampshire, where he got into more trouble.
He had been addicted to OxyContin, committed a string of armed burglaries. He was serving time for that, and they collected his DNA under this mandatory program.
In 2006, an Alaska lab worker did a weekly check of the CODIS system. That's when Kenneth Dion's DNA matched the DNA found in Bonnie.
New Hampshire was one of like a handful of states at the time that had mandatory DNA collection for violent crime. They would not have caught him if not for that law in New Hampshire.
Alaska investigators immediately flew out to New Hampshire and questioned Kenneth.
The investigators didn't just come out and say, "Hey, we think you killed this girl."
What these two Alaska State Troopers did do was put on a clinic on how to interrogate a suspect.
They first asked him, when he was in Alaska and why he was in Alaska, and he tells them with the military, and he kind of mentioned that he was into martial arts, and somehow that came up. He was like a black belt in karate, I think.
I had nunchucks, 3 sectional staffs. I had all kinds of things because I'm a 5th degree black belt, so.
You can hear he's got this kind of like New Englander accent that I wasn't expecting.
Along with his thick accent, Kenneth had red hair and stood around 5 feet 10 inches tall. He told the troopers he grew up fighting his whole life. And then the topic turned to Bonnie.
This is a pretty high profile case. So did you read the news or listen to the news, read the newspaper back then?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Okay. You probably heard about the situation then, about a young girl named Bonnie Craig.
Bonnie Craig.
18-year-old college student.
I can't recall. I can't remember.
She's this teenage girl. Do you know her? And he said, no.
Did you ever meet someone called Bonnie or anything like that?
I have no idea.
And then finally, they show him this picture of Bonnie Craig and ask him if he knows her.
She's an 18-year-old college student, lived in South Anchorage. She left her home around, 5:10, 5:20 in the morning to go catch a bus off Lake Otis.
I think when the investigators sort of first presented this photo of Bonnie Craig to Kenneth Dion, it was, have you ever met this girl? He said no, he'd never seen her before. And then they left it sitting there, maybe as a advice to see what his reaction was over time.
Do you ever recall maybe, meeting her through someone else, one of your friends or anything?
18 years old?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My wife would have killed me.
And he said, no, if I had known her or been hanging out with her, my wife would have killed me, because he was married at the time. I think it's worth pointing out, too, that anybody who had been around at that time would have seen this picture or a picture of Bonnie Craig. Even people that don't follow the news very closely would have seen these posters and would have seen these photos on the side of a bus, So for him to have said he had never seen her before just seemed implausible.
That's when the troopers flipped the script.
And the sad thing about it, later on that day, her body was found at McHugh Creek.
Whoa. What are you trying to say?
He says something along the lines of, what are you guys trying to say here? Like, why are you here talking to me about her?
Your name has come up, like hundreds of names.
Why would my name come up?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. You say you didn't have no association with her. That's good. I'm just trying to get clear so I can get home.
And of course, it's hard to get around the fact that his DNA was found inside of her and she was dead. There was just some good police work that had to be done to really nail this guy down.
And they did it. Alaska State Troopers charged Kenneth Dion with sexually assaulting and murdering Bonnie Craig. Another 5 years would pass before Kenneth Dion stood trial. By then, a key piece of evidence would go missing and would impact the integrity of the investigation.
I'm Clayton Eckerd, and in 2022, I was the lead of ABC's The Bachelor.
Unfortunately, it didn't go according to plan. He became the first Bachelor to ever have his final rose rejected. The internet turned on him.
If I could press a button and rewind it all, I would.
But what happened to Clayton after the show made even bigger headlines. It began as a one-night stand and ended in a courtroom, with Clayton at the center of a very strange paternity scandal.
The media is here. This case has gone viral.
The dating contract.
Agree to date me, but I'm also suing you.
Please search warrant.
This is unlike anything I've ever seen before.
I'm Stephanie Young. This is Love Trapped. This season, an epic battle of he said, she said, and the search for accountability in a sea of lies.
I have done nothing except get pregnant by the Bachelor!
Listen to Love Trapped on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Jo Winterstein, host of the Spirit Daughter podcast, where we talk about astrology, natal charts, and how to step into your most vibrant life. And I just sat down with a Minnie Driver.
The Irish traveller said when I was 16, you're going to have a terrible time with men.
Actor, storyteller, and unapologetic Aquarian visionary. Aquarius is all about freedom loving and different perspectives. And I find a lot of people with strong placements in Aquarius are misunderstood. A Sun and Venus in Aquarius in her 7th house spark her unconventional approach to partnership.
He really has taught me to embrace people sleeping in different rooms, on different houses, in different places, but just an embracing of the isness of it all.
If you're navigating your own transformation or just want a chart side view into how a leading artist integrates astrology, creativity, and real life, this episode is a must listen. Listen to the Spirit Daughter podcast starting on February 24th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
In 2023, a story gripped the UK, evoking horror and disbelief.
The nurse who should have been in charge of caring for tiny babies is now the most prolific child killer in modern British history.
Everyone thought they knew how it ended. A verdict, a villain, a nurse named Lucy Letby.
Lucy Letby has been found guilty.
But what if we didn't get the whole story?
The moment you look at the whole picture, the case collapses.
I'm Amanda Knox, and in the new podcast, Doubt, the Case of Lucy Letby, we follow the evidence and hear from the people that lived it to ask what really happened when the world decided who Lucy Letby was.
No voicing of any skepticism or doubt.
It'll cause so much harm at every single level of the British establishment of this is wrong.
Listen to Doubt, the Case of Lucy Letby on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Next Monday, our 2026 iHeart Podcast Awards are happening live at South by Southwest.
This is the biggest night in podcasting.
We'll honor the very best in podcasting from the past year and celebrate the most innovative talent and creators in the industry.
And the winner is...
Creativity, knowledge, and passion will all be on full display.
Thank you so much, iHeartRadio. Thank you to all the other nominees. You guys are awesome.
Watch live next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, free at Veeps.com or the Veeps app.
Bonnie Craig was 18 years old when she was mysteriously found dead in a creek several miles from her home and college. In 2011, some 17 years later, her accused killer, Kenneth Dion, was on trial for murder.
I would have been 12 years old when this happened, and I think I was maybe 30 or something, by the time this went on trial.
Journalist Casey Grove wrote about the case.
I've thought about that a lot. I mean, the amount of time that went by from when she was killed to when Kenneth Dion went on trial was almost as long as she had been alive.
That time difference became obvious when prosecutors showed pictures of Bonnie during the trial.
Just the way that she was dressed, tapered jeans, back in the 90s. And her hair was kind of in a holdover from the 80s, kind of like that feathered, somewhat bigger hair than people wear nowadays. It was kind of a throwback to that time, too, where people didn't have a phone in their pocket to take pictures of everything. So, a lot of the photos were sort of school photos or, family photos from gatherings and things like that.
On the other side of the courtroom sat Kenneth Dion, whose red hair wasn't the only feature that stood out.
He actually had knuckle tattoos that said "Lost Soul." He had lost on one hand and soul on the other hand on his knuckles tattooed. I've covered cases where they actually use makeup to cover the tattoos up so that the person looks better maybe to the jury.
Prosecutors explained to the jury that this lost soul was responsible for killing and sexually assaulting Bonnie Craig.
There's a direct line there between him and her, and it's impossible to get around that. But I think the theory of what actually happened when Bonnie was murdered was kind of muddy, or at least took a lot of filling in of the blanks.
There were no eyewitnesses to the crime, so the defense adopted the original theory from the Alaska State Troopers, that Bonnie fell in a hiking accident. but with a twist.
These two people had consensual sex, and then, one of them just sort of fell off a cliff and died accidentally.
The defense reiterated to the jurors what the police first told Bonnie's mother.
The defense attorney, he asked, well, so could somebody fall off a cliff and strike their genitals, in this case, on a sharp rock? And would that produce the kind of injuries that you're saying are evidence of sexual assault? This is in front of Bonnie's mom and sister and her other family, and just about everybody just kind of like rolled their eyes, how could you even say that?
And you know what? I feel the same way. What the defense is proposing happened to Bonnie is unbelievable. After the defense floated alternative theories, prosecutors pointed the finger directly at the defendant.
Bonnie was walking to the bus stop, and the prosecution theory was that Kenneth Dion saw her and somehow got her into his vehicle. He, sexually assaulted her at some point, possibly at McHugh Creek, struck her at the top of this cliff, and that was based on a single drop of blood on a leaf that the crime scene investigators found that was Bonnie's blood, and then pushed her into the creek, down this cliff, it's a pretty steep, big cliff down into the creek, and that he then scrambled down there to finish her off, was what the prosecutor said.
Bonnie took at least a dozen blows to the head, and prosecutors believe Kenneth Dion used a weapon for the fatal blow.
They believed that Kenneth Dion had killed Bonnie Craig by hitting her in the back of the head with nunchucks.
Prosecutors leaned heavily into that interrogation tape of Kenneth Dion, where he admitted to being into martial arts.
They knew that he had these martial arts weapons like nunchucks and those kind of things.
But the defense said if Bonnie was murdered, there would have been blood everywhere on the side of the cliff, not just the one drop they found on a leaf. And as for Kenneth's DNA,
the defense attorney, he insinuated that Bonnie might have been promiscuous and might have had consensual sex with Kenneth Dion.
The defense argued Kenneth and Bonnie had sex in the week leading up to her death. But remember, Bonnie had a long-distance boyfriend at the time.
Bonnie's boyfriend at the time was brought back, 17 years later for this trial and testified.
Bonnie's boyfriend, Cameron, was 34 years old at the time of the trial. He testified how Bonnie was his first girlfriend and said the two had plans to marry.
Everything that the boyfriend said about her and about their relationship was not in agreement with the idea that she could have been sleeping with other guys. They talked on the phone all the time. They had promise rings that they were wearing. They thought that they were going to get married and have a happy little life with each other and go off and do great things.
Cameron told The Room that he and Bonnie spent their last night together before he went away to school. It happened in July of 1994, on the rocks near McHugh Creek, the same place her body was later found.
It was very sad to see her boyfriend on the stand talking about what had been such a beautiful thing in their lives, their love for each other.
Testifying about his last night with Bonnie became too much for Cameron.
They paused his testimony at one point. He just kind of overcome with the grief, and he went out in the hallway in the courthouse and just kind of walked up and down the hallway and kind of gathered himself.
After that emotional testimony, prosecutors played the interrogation tape of Kenneth Dion.
You've probably heard about the situation about a young girl named Bonnie Craig.
I can't recall. I can't remember.
They're very clearly trying to pin him down on, oh, you don't know her? Okay. How'd your DNA get inside of her? Never seen her face before? Well, later, when you try to claim that you had consensual sex with her, that's not going to make any sense.
Kenneth Dion never took the stand in his own defense. He simply jotted down notes and made frequent eye contact with Bonnie's mother, Karen.
He looked at us very angry a couple times. And it was seeing the face of evil.
Other witnesses from Kenneth's past also testified about his dark side.
We had more than one woman on the stand saying he had abused her. And I mean, even his wife, ex-wife at that time, had to testify about him and his abuse and his drug abuse.
Things were looking good for the prosecution until something happened to a key piece of evidence. Back on the afternoon of Bonnie's death in 1994, investigators used a camcorder to record footage at the crime scene. But suddenly, that tape was missing.
Ultimately, it was an important piece of the whole story, but the video from the murder scene never showed up.
Journalist Casey Grove.
I don't remember ever hearing a good explanation for why the video was lost. The most detail about that was just it had been checked out of the evidence for the case and not returned.
The defense attacked investigators for losing a key piece of evidence. But then, on the second day of the trial, prosecutors approached the judge. They explained that the missing tape had mysteriously resurfaced.
That was bizarre.
Suddenly, the trial came to a screeching halt.
The fact that this video surfaced right after the trial started, basically, I mean, the defense, of course, fought that vigorously, fought that being admitted as evidence.
The judge stopped the trial for both sides to argue whether to admit the video.
I was filled with fear that he could walk.
Not knowing what that meant for the trial threw Bonnie's mother, Karen, into a panic.
It wasn't investigated real well. They don't have a lot of evidence. All you need is one juror who could end up throwing the case.
Suddenly, the slam dunk case against Kenneth Dion took a turn.
Oh my gosh, are we going to be able to get a conviction?
I'm Clayton Eckerd, and in 2022, I was the lead of ABC's The Bachelor.
Unfortunately, it didn't go according to plan. He became the first Bachelor to ever have his final rose rejected. The internet turned on him.
If I could press a button and rewind it all, I would.
But what happened to Clayton after the show made even bigger headlines. It began as a one-night stand and ended in a courtroom, with Clayton at the center of a very strange paternity scandal.
The media is here. This case has gone viral.
The dating contract.
Agree to date me, but I'm also suing you.
Police search warrant.
This is unlike anything I've ever seen before.
I'm Stephanie Young. This is Love Trapped. This season, an epic battle of he said, she said, and the search for accountability in a sea of lies.
I have done nothing except get pregnant by the Bachelor!
Listen to Love Trapped on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Jo Winterstein, host of the Spirit Daughter podcast, where we talk about astrology, natal charts, and how to step into your most vibrant life. And I just sat down with a Minnie Driver.
The Irish traveler said when I was 16, you're going to have a terrible time with men.
Actor, storyteller, and unapologetic Aquarian visionary. Aquarius is all about freedom-loving and different perspectives, and I find a lot of people with strong placements in Aquarius are misunderstood. A Sun and Venus in Aquarius in her 7th house spark her unconventional approach to partnership.
He really has taught me to embrace people sleeping in different rooms, on different houses, in different places, but just an embracing of the isness of it all.
If you're navigating your own transformation or just want a chart-side view into how a leading artist integrates astrology, creativity, and real life, this episode is a must listen. Listen to the Spirit Daughter podcast starting on February 24th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
In 2023, a story gripped the UK, evoking horror and disbelief.
The nurse who should have been in charge of caring for tiny babies is now the most prolific child killer in modern British history.
Everyone thought they knew how it ended. A verdict, a villain, a nurse named Lucy Letby.
Lucy Letby has been found guilty.
But what if we didn't get the whole story?
The moment you look at the whole picture, the case collapses.
I'm Amanda Knox, and in the new podcast, Doubt, the Case of Lucy Letby, we follow the evidence and hear from the people that lived it to ask what really happened when the world decided who Lucy Letby was.
No voicing of any skepticism or doubt.
It'll cause so much harm at every single level of the British establishment of this is wrong.
Listen to Doubt, the Case of Lucy Letby on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Next Monday, our 2026 iHeart Podcast Awards are happening live at South by Southwest.
This is the biggest night in podcasting.
We'll honor the very best in podcasting from the past year and celebrate the most innovative talent and creators in the industry.
And the winner is...
Creativity, knowledge, and passion will all be on full display.
Thank you so much, iHeartRadio. Thank you to all the other nominees. You guys are awesome.
Watch live next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, free at Veeps.com or the Veeps app.
Kenneth Dion is on trial for the 1994 murder of Bonnie Craig. But there's a problem. A videotape of the crime scene that Alaska State Troopers took was missing.
17 years have gone by since the murder, and then this thing with this video comes up.
Journalist Casey Grove covered the trial.
It's supposed to be, the first day of testimony, and they paused the trial for a week.
The videotape disappeared and then reappeared 2 days into the trial. And after much debate, the judge allowed prosecutors to admit it into evidence.
It's shot on a VHS cassette tape with that grainy, home video footage kind of look to it.
As the dated footage flickered on the television screen, the jurors leaned in to get their first look at the crime scene.
This video, really put you at that scene at that time. The leaves were all yellow and things were kind of changing towards fall. The moss or the lichen is kind of starting to turn red. It's very colorful.
The beauty of Alaska's changing seasons was broken by what showed up next on the videotape.
These investigators wearing hip waders are wading out to the body, and they flip it over and you can see her face, and it's just very pale white. For Karen, Bonnie's mom, it was tough because she had never seen that.
As you can imagine, seeing this footage of her daughter's body floating lifeless in McHugh Creek was tough to see. For Karen, it showed a part of the investigation she had not been privy to.
For the first time, I'm finding out what they did when they arrived there. One of the Alaska State Troopers, he had crawled on his knees down paths looking for any kind of evidence. He found just one leaf with a drop of blood that they later determined was Bonnie's blood.
That video showed that one leaf that troopers found that contained Bonnie's blood.
That was crucial to find that leaf with that one drop of blood, because that proved that Bonnie was injured before she went over into the water below.
Karen hoped that video would help disprove the defense's theory that Bonnie fell to her death.
The defense immediately said, well, she had all these head injuries. There would have been blood everywhere. The prosecutor in rebuttal said that there was no blood anywhere because Bonnie went over the cliff and Kenneth Dion ran down the side of that cliff and got Bonnie and hit her with the nunchucks while she was in the water again and again and again until she was lifeless.
In other words, the only blood would have been in the creek.
It had all washed away except for that one drop of blood that they found. And it was Bonnie's.
The jury agreed with the prosecutor's argument. They found Kenneth Dion guilty of sexually assaulting and murdering Bonnie Craig.
We cried. We all cried and hugged each other. It was a bittersweet victory to know He's not getting away with murder anymore.
Kenneth Dion never took the stand, but he broke his silence at the sentencing hearing.
He had a couple of outbursts. He would lose it,
Twice at his sentencing hearing, Kenneth Dion shouted towards the prosecutor. He said he would never admit to killing Bonnie because he didn't do it. But his outbursts didn't spare him. The judge sentenced Kenneth Dion to 124 years. He won't be eligible for parole until 2050, when he's 81 years old.
He's going to be spending 124 years in jail. He's never going to get the opportunity to kill another child.
Throughout the investigation, Karen was critical of Alaska State Troopers. She was further incensed when she learned what happened in New Hampshire. In 2003, Kenneth Dion was incarcerated in New Hampshire, but his DNA wasn't collected until 2005. And it wasn't until 2006 when his DNA was entered into the CODIS system.
I am furious about the fact that they hadn't bothered to input his DNA into CODIS, our criminal national database.
Think about that. Bonnie's murder could have been solved years earlier if Kenneth Dion's DNA was collected on time.
That's when I went after the media again and called all of the legislators and the representatives and let them know that we need to change the law.
In 2002, New Hampshire became one of only a handful of states with a law allowing DNA to be collected from state prisoners convicted of violent crimes. Karen wanted Alaska lawmakers to pass a similar law.
We pushed for it, and within 60 days, it was signed by the governor-in-law. Alaska was number 7 to start collecting DNA on all felony arrests.
Thanks to Karen's lobbying, Alaska law now requires DNA samples from suspects arrested for a violent crime like robbery, domestic violence, or sexual assault. The swabs then get sent to the state crime lab, where the DNA can be matched against evidence from cold cases and kept on file to aid in future cases.
This guy had been in jail 2 months before he murdered Bonnie, out on bail when he murdered her, and then back in jail 2 months after. If they'd had collection of DNA on arrest, they would have known right from the get-go. We wouldn't have had to wait months, years. It could have been solved in weeks. Instead, it was a 17-year saga trying to get him convicted.
As of 2024, Alaska is now one of at least 31 states that requires DNA samples to be collected upon arrest, or when criminal charges are filed against a person. But the program isn't without its critics.
The people scream and say, we're innocent till proven guilty. Well, it's not that it's proven you guilty just to have your DNA there. All it does is identify the person. You still have to prove the case. When they take the mud shots, when they take the fingerprints, get that DNA. Collect DNA on arrest. It's crucial to justice.
It's a simple concept in theory, but the program isn't without its flaws. A 2020 ProPublica article reported that Alaska continues to be one of many states with a long backlog of uncollected and or unprocessed DNA. Despite the program's warts, Karen considers the law a critical tool for investigators and the families of victims.
And in Bonnie's case, we turn tragedy into triumph by getting these laws changed and knowing that because of Bonnie's murder, they will be spared being a victim because of the DNA laws that have changed.
Nearly a decade after Bonnie's murderer was convicted, her close friend Amy still couldn't find closure. She had to confront a place that was meaningful to the two of them, McHugh Creek.
Last summer was the first time I actually went there.
Amy returned to the place where Bonnie's body was discovered. And she didn't go alone.
My youngest daughter had went there with me. She hugged me, and I just needed to just let me sit here and just think. I definitely shed some tears, a little emotional, just being there.
Amy had come to the realization that Bonnie's death affected the way she parents her own children.
So it made me a little overprotective as a parent, not wanting to leave my kids, needing to know everywhere they're going, just because there's a lot of monsters in this world, and it scares you. Like I said, never would have thought something like that would have happened to Bonnie. If it could happen to her, it could happen to anybody. So yeah, most definitely it's changed me or shaped me to be the parent that I am.
That afternoon at the creek, Amy said she sensed something.
Sunbeams were shining down. You actually kind of feel her presence there almost.
Next time on American Homicide, a hiker sets up camp and a dead body is found. But the hiker claims he had nothing to do with the murder. We'll head to rural Chulitna, Alaska for the case of the Mountain Man murders. I'm Sloan Glass, and that's next time on American Homicide.